to another episode of Keep It on the DL. I'm Devin Bonanno, alongside, as always, my favorite partner, my PIC, over in Pleasantville, Lou Angelillo. Lou, how's it going
Not
today?
bad, Dev. What do you got for us?
Oh, man, we actually got a lot to talk about this week. Like we've talked about in the past, this whole COVID situation has been a whirlwind for, obviously, all across life. But we talk sports here. The sports spectrum has been unlike anything nobody has ever seen. It's very unique, which is kind of cool. It adds a unique spin to it. It's constantly keeping us on our toes, especially with the MLB, which we're going to talk about very soon. But we're going to lead off with arguably the biggest topic that's happened ever since our last episode last week, which is the NFL team in Washington. Not the Redskins anymore. Not apparently, but they have released a statement saying how they are going to change the name. They haven't said when and to what. They are going through a review. So that's going to be happening before the NFL season. And then on top of it, over the past few days, I believe it started on Tuesday, Lou, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's been a lot of hype over this Washington Post article surrounding the Redskins and the culture down at FedEx Field and surrounding owner Dan Snyder. So, Lou, piggyback off of what I said. Give me your thoughts, what you heard, and everything else.
There's a lot of things going on with just besides the name change. There was 15 people or 15 altercations in which sexual harassment was going on. I don't know in depth about it. I don't know much, past what was on the surface. So I heard some things like Dan Snyder was like pawning off cheerleaders possibly to like people in the higher ups. I don't know if this is true, but there's just so much out there that this could be really, really bad, or it could be bad or really, really bad at this point. We don't know what is up with these, what exactly these altercations, what these sexual harassment altercations were. But either way, it's going to be bad or really bad if you were selling off cheerleaders to people in the higher office.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot going on down in D.C. right now. Obviously, like we said, with the name change and everything that's going on with this kind of out of the blue article that the Washington Post, I believe they posted it today. But a lot of people are saying that the story has been diluted a little bit because the lawyers for the Redskins got involved and I would think have paid off the Redskins supposedly a little bit. But personally, I've never been a fan of Dan Snyder at all. I'm sure you can.
No, I never really knew the guy. I have no real opinion of him, but the things that have happened over the last, you can even go back a year or so. This is not a good guy. This guy needs to get out of Washington and sell this team. I think the NFL may force him to sell.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. He definitely has a history of not being an instigator, but just being stubborn and just not being easy to work with. Even over the past few years or however long it's been, he's always come out and said, I'm not changing the name, I don't care. Everything with head coaches coming in and out with the lack of the team's success, he seems to not care. He tries to spend money, if there's one good quality about him, he does what he can, he did bring in Shanahan way back when, to try to revamp the organization and spent money here and there. But, with this, this could be the nail in the coffin for him. And funny enough, Lou, I saw something on Twitter today that another allegation in the midst of whatever the heck is going on down there with the Washington Post article was that they supposedly, or there's an accusation, whatever you want to call it, of the higher-ups paying off the referees, supposedly.
Well, it hasn't worked, Dev.
Someone shot that down.
If that's true.
That's exactly what they said.
Worked.
That's exactly what they said. Yep, they said, well, if we started paying off the referees, we should get a refund because it didn't work at all.
Yeah, definitely. That's crazy. I did not see that, but obviously it has not worked. Not one bit. I mean, if you were saying the Cleveland Cavaliers are paying off people to get the first pick back when LeBron was left them, I'd be like, okay, that seems reasonable. But wow, I do not think that is that would be true. But yeah. Then it almost, I kind of think of I'm thinking of this scene now. You got me thinking. You know the scene in The Office where Michael and Jan are. They're going back and forth on the deal that Jan's like suing the company over harassment. So I feel like they're all in this room together, and there's Michael going. It's like he's like my friend Pat took a turn, a pattern of disrespect. Like this is what I'm looking at here in the Washington organization.
God.
Obviously Dunder Mifflin is a better organization than the Redskins and all those things. But I don't know. I just thought of that scene right now. But
that's good.
So
that's good.
Dan Snyder's going to end up. I think everything that's going to happen here is Dan Snyder's going to end up selling the team, and there's going to be a new owner in town. But that's the other thing. I don't think I've really heard players saying anything about how they've hated being in Washington. I haven't really heard much of that. No, Landon Collins is a player that went from the Giants to the Redskins. So I guess there's way more underneath the surface than what's out there, and it's definitely going to be in the offices and not really on the field.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and it's surprising that we haven't heard anything about this until just now. I mean, you would think that someone would kind of squeal or tell somebody who would tell somebody, or maybe that did happen and it just kind of coincided with the whole name change thing. I don't know. But I'm excited to see what they're going to change the name to. It kind of boiled down to kind of saying, listen, with everything going on, they had no choice but to change the name. But I'm pumped. I saw I believe they're called the Navajo Nation. They released a statement saying how they're excited about the team changing their name. And they came up with something. They gave them a suggestion. They said, call them the Code Talkers. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I read up on the history about it a little bit. And there's some really neat history there and honors the Native Americans. They supposedly helped the Americans during World War II, I believe, or World War I. I don't know the specifics, but I saw that. And then the Red Tails as well. And the Red Tails, not supposedly, but they were an African-American group of Air Force pilots in World War II as well. So kind of fitting that I think it should be kind of U.S. history based, considering they are DC's team, our nation's capital. That's at least where I stand.
Yeah, those are, I've definitely go towards the red tail ones. I mean, the Washington Code Talkers doesn't really flow off the tongue, nor what would your logo be. It'd be a little tough to do that one. But the Red Tails is a great one. I also have a couple of Redskin fans. They like the Red Wolves. They think the Red Wolves is a good one. So they have a lot of options with the name changes, but they're running into a huge predicament with these name changes. There's some guy in West Virginia that trademarked a bunch of these potential Washington names for Washington. So they're going to need to, pay this guy, and this guy's only willing to release 4 of the names that he had the trademarks for. So it's going to be, they're going to end up having to pay this guy off for a trademark. So they also have that on top of everything, trying to pick the name. Then they have these harassment cases, and the Washington's in deep stuff right now. And I feel bad for Ron Rivera walking into a huge shitstorm.
Yeah, he's a good guy too. I was glad that he got a job immediately. He's a very, very good coach. But I wanted to bring up the whole trademark thing, Luke, because I thought that was hysterical and brilliant.
Low-key brilliant, but the guy's that's kind of a scummy thing to do. But it's smart, but scummy. It's scummy.
Oh, come on. Brilliant. I give this guy a 10 out of 10. I'm pissed that wasn't
10.
me. You know? I mean, I'm reading an article right now on the Washington Post, and it says it only costs $275 to file a name with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. I mean, this guy spent a little over $3,000 to patent all these names, and he's going to get millions from the Redskins.
Maybe.
Like, come on. I would
or
have
the
done
Redskins
that
can just lowball
Wish I
them.
could go back
They
to
could
time.
be like, yeah, you can spend all your $3,000. We can pick some other name that you don't want. That you didn't, not that you don't want, that you didn't pick.
I'd be completely fine with a $3,000 risk for that.
I mean, it depends how much is they're willing to just give this guy. I mean, this guy did, a really smart thing and just trying to basically just it's not a bribe, but it's I can't think of the right word to use here, but just to get money out of the he wants to be paid off by the Redskins. So it's smart, but it's also like you got to be a different kind of person to do that.
Yeah, leave it up to the Mountaineers and the people of West Virginia,
really.
Man. They are a different breed. They are. I wouldn't expect anybody else from down there to do that. Bravo to the Mountaineers down there. Love West Virginia. But real quick before we head on to the next topic, I'm reading a blurb here. He covered it up by saying he applied for the Washington the Red Tails for, quote, entertainment in the nature of football games and for cups and mugs and wine glasses.
Okay.
Whatever that means.
I guess there's tails in your red wine. I don't know.
I guess so, but I mean either way, this guy's a genius. I commend him, and I would love to have a conversation with this man.
Oh, yes.
All right, so move on to the next topic. Lou, I know I sent you something very quickly, and this is actually the only tweet I came across today. Let me pull this up specifically, but Tom Pelissero, I've never heard of him. He's a reporter for the NFL Network. He has 170,000 followers. He's pretty legit, but he tweeted earlier this evening, and just before 8 o'clock Eastern, he said the Chiefs are telling players camp is a go, with rookies and QBs to report for COVID-19 testing on Monday. But he also stated there's no agreement on outstanding issues between the NFL and the PA. But under the CBA currently, the team has the right to tell players to report. So I know you made a very interesting comment off air, which I agree with. The NFL had the most time out of any sports league in the States to get this done and to figure its stuff out. And it's already seeming like it's all over the place. And J.J. Watt said something earlier today that he took a call with over 100 players with the PA and the league, and they kind of came out of the conversation saying, well, how's the testing going to work? We want to play, but are people going to be able to opt out? Does it count in the year of their contracts? All that type of stuff. So what do you think about that, Lou? I just think it's a mess.
Right, and no, they get the players. We saw this with baseball. The players' union and the organization, NFL, need to just get together, get in a room, figure this stuff out, cross some T's, dot some I's, say, guys won't be penalized for, missing this year. They might have to take a pay cut like baseball did. And unfortunately, that's not ideal in football because of the nature of the sport, how gruesome the sport is. So if people are going to take half their pay away and also not be held accountable for missing the season and be getting, allowing them to opt out, I think you're going to see a lot more football players opt out of a season than baseball would. Baseball's not a sport that's going to perhaps end your career or even your life in a way, unless you're Tanaka throwing to Stanton in a live game. But that's the biggest thing is, can these guys have an opt-out? That's what they want. They want an opt-out clause there that's not going to hurt their contracts, and they are going to get paid in some capacity. But having a football player play for half their salary, it's going to be tougher than getting a baseball player to play for half their salary. But yes, I would be very upset if football didn't play 16 games and didn't start on time. They've had loads and loads of time to figure this out in April, May, June. So they need to get going here. They need to get moving. They need to try and stay on track to open up camps and get camp going before the season starts. We could just can the preseason. That would be fine. That would be absolutely fine to just can the preseason. Doesn't really matter much. Anyway, the only thing preseason's good for is those last man roster spots when you're trying to make your final roster. So we'll see what the NFL does here, but I hope the NFL and the NFLPA can get in a room and solve things much faster than baseball could.
Yeah, I agree with every single thing you said. I think you pretty much hit everything I wanted to touch upon too. It's just very frustrating that this wasn't solved. You know, I mean, their season ended in early February, and that was legitimately weeks before this whole thing started. I mean, they have been untouched so far. You know, I mean, they were able to do the draft virtually. That worked. And, I mean, they were still obviously able to have free agency. And speaking of, Clowney still does not have a home, but we'll touch upon that in a little bit. I can't wrap my head around this. Why wasn't there, or isn't there, a current plan in place? Why are you starting to talk about this now, 4 days before a team is scheduled to start camp? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I was just thinking, Lou, while you were talking, this organization on the NFL's part, to me, it began when they released the schedule. And I think we talked about this during the episodes prior to the schedule release, but there were rumblings, and even John Clayton, I believe he even confirmed it, that they were going to have the out-of-conference games be weeks 1 to 6, I believe, or 1 to 8, whatever the breakdown was, and then have the second half of the season be all divisional games. And I thought that was brilliant, because even if the NFL had to shorten the season, you could scrap the out-of-conference games, and obviously the in-conference / divisional games are the most important out of everything. But guess what the NFL did? They did not do that. You know, I mean, the Jets are going to Seattle and to LA back-to-back weeks in weeks 15 or 14 and 15. You know, I mean, that's just terrible planning on the NFL's part. If they have to lose some weeks, you're going to lose divisional games as the schedule stands right now, or are they going to scrap the current schedule and make a new one like the MLB? But, I mean, it could have been completely
I think
avoided.
that if something like that needs to happen, then yes, they do need to scrap the schedule. But I'm not going to come out and say that the schedule was done horribly and all this stuff. But if they do need to make an adjustment on the amount of games they play and so on and so forth, then yes, they're going to need to make a different schedule, which you play your division twice, and then from there maybe you just make it some local kind of teams. You know, Giants would play the Jets, maybe they play the Steelers, you know, the teams that are up there, the Ravens, you know, make it local kind of teams. Because there's always that one team that's kind of odd out in the divisions. I know with the Giants, it's the Cowboys being all the way in Texas. I mean, you have the Eagles, they're all right here. The Eagles are right here. Yeah. The Redskins are right here. Giants are obviously close. And then you have Dallas, all the way in the middle of the country. So there are some divisions that are a little spread out. I know Jets would need to go all the way down to Miami. And when you look at what COVID is in New York and Miami right now, it's polar opposite. So there are some things in terms of that really can't be solved. But if they do need to make a new schedule, I think that they'll figure it out. I'm not too worried about this schedule going forward. But if they play 16 games, then these players just need to be smart, need to stick with their team when they travel. They can't go to nightclubs if they're open and such things like that. That's something that I think the NFL needs to address and the NFLPA needs to address on, what you're allowed to do during the season, similar to, like the NBA bubble right now. They're basically confined to their hotel room. They can't do anything. So I'm not saying you're going to confine NFL players to a hotel room because obviously everyone's going to play in their home stadiums and such. But you're going to have to lay down some limits saying, it's home, it's to MetLife, and it's back to home or onto a plane, etc. So there needs to be some sort of limitations on where these players, can go, or you basically say you can't really travel anywhere. I don't want you going to hang out with any buddies or things like that. No going out as a, maybe you got to prevent going out to a bar later as a team, even after a win. It's just, it stinks right now, but that just might have to be how this season has to be, and then come 2021, things will be better for next season. But it's just there are, I can't think of the right word right now, but there are certain circumstances, there are needs for, bigger, larger, restrictions. So we got to see the NFL needs to just get this right and give us 16 games of football.
Of course. I mean, that's going to be hard to do. With football, you can't have teams play every Sunday and Thursday. It's bad enough that they have one short week a year and every team's guaranteed that Thursday night game. So they can push the season back. When they were coming out with the schedule, they did say that the Super Bowl could be pushed back to February and everything else would just be pushed back as well. Maybe that's what their plan is. But at least to me, I just think it was very stupid to just not have the divisional games be the second half and be the out-of-conference games be the first half. I think thought that was a perfect plan that made tons of sense. And
well, then there's a counter argument. You go, well, why aren't the division games in the first half of the season before this huge second wave of Corona is supposed to come? There are counter options to that too. Like, how come? If we should have played the Redskins, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Redskins, the Eagles, and Cowboys again in September and October before November comes and Corona's on this huge rise. But guess what? Corona never really came down in the U.S. at all. Certain states it did, but it's really just, it's not coming down at all.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. I think they should have been focused on the, quote, present. That it hasn't gone away. It's still an issue. Can't really plan for a second wave if you're still in the first.
Exactly.
We really haven't gotten out of this rut. But either way, I want 16 games of football. I want my bye week. I didn't think I'd ever say that. I'm going to be looking forward to an actual bye week of a Jets season or a Giants season somewhere along the line. As long as there's football, I don't care.
Right, and that's a great point you made about Thursday Night Football, though. Having some teams don't get that short day and other teams would. But maybe just do it Thanksgiving and have no other Thursday Night Football games. Give that team the bye, before that Thursday night game.
Yeah, that could be something too. But again, I just think it's very disorganized on the NFL's part, especially with not having protocols in place for camp so far, as J.J. Watt said today.
Yep.
Next up, we got...
No. I just said yep.
Oh, okay. Well, next up, we got two big, huge contracts. One flying in faster than the helmet to Myles Garrett's head.
Mason Rudolph's head.
Mason Rudolph's head. And then the other one, arguably the best running back in football last year, in Derrick Henry. So we'll stick with the AFC South first. We'll stick with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry agreed to a 4-year, $50 million contract with the Tennessee Titans, making him, or giving him rather, $25.5 million guaranteed, and keeping him in Nashville until pretty much the tail end of his prime at 30. He's currently 26. He just turned 26 in January. He's coming off an insane year, 303 attempts, just a little over 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns, and averaged 5.1 yards a carry. I mean, he was easily the best running back in football last year, a fantasy monster. Seemed like he averaged over 25 points every single game. I hated going up against him twice in the regular season and once in the playoffs. But I'm not going to be that guy talk about my fantasy team or my fantasy season. I hate people like that. But, Lou, give me your thoughts on this contract.
Yeah, I think it's a great deal for the Titans. Henry definitely could have got more. I think this guy's maybe worth 4 years, $60 million. But times are tough right now. You don't know what the salary cap's going to be next year. I think Henry really wanted to get a deal done. So guess what? He got him done. He's got his $25 million guaranteed, which I think is great. And just a great deal for the Titans and both sides here. Henry did not want to wait and see what happened if he were to play out this season without a contract extension, and next year he's in free agency and no one's going to give him a deal because their salary cap has been diminished. So I think it was a great deal for the Titans and Henry to get this deal done. It was much needed for both sides to get this done. And, you have to praise them here. Things that Jamal Adams is not willing to do with the Jets, Henry is willing to do with the Titans. And that just goes to, the character and work ethic of Derrick Henry. To just get this deal done, stay with Tennessee, make another run here with a very good defense. And I believe the Titans might be a front runner to land Clowney as well. So they can land Clowney, that they can make a real run here in January. So we'll see what the Titans can put together and get back to the playoffs, maybe an AFC championship victory. It's definitely possible, but great deal for both sides.
Yeah, I think this is an absolutely beautiful deal for both sides. I mean, from the Titans' standpoint, you get Henry, homegrown guy. In the prime of his career, you're going to have him for his age 26, 27, 28, 29 seasons. And you know what? I mean, obviously, running backs get a lot of wear and tear. By 30, they kind of start to diminish. But you could still sign into a short-term deal at the end of that. It's a very cat-friendly deal. And from Henry's side, I mean, again, it's only 4 years. He gets to stay in the place that he likes. He runs the football. He loves playing for Mike Vrabel. He's verbalized that on a few occasions. And on the other side, for him, contract-wise, I mean, he's getting essentially 50% of his contract guaranteed. I mean, that's a nice chunk of change. And like you said, the uncertainty with the CBA and the cap, it was a great time for him to get the contract settled. It was a huge question mark. I know a lot of people were asking what's going to happen. Is he going to leave? Is he going to get tagged again? What's going to happen? But, I mean, very, very well-deserved. I mean, he is an absolute monster. He's an absolute truck. I would not want to try to tackle Derrick Henry coming out of the backfield at all. And like you said, I mean, the Titans are very good. They're very, very balanced. Obviously, the real question mark is just with Tannehill at QB. But that's really it. I mean, they got a very solid defense, and I'm a big Vrabel guy, huge Coach Vrabes guy.
Yeah, I mean, Henry's definitely a top 3 running back in this league. You got McCaffrey, Barkley, and Henry right now. That's the way you're looking at the top 3 running backs. But yeah, congrats to Derrick Henry for getting that contract, and I'm glad having a relationship with your coach is huge, and we could kind of see that Jamal Adams didn't have that with Gase.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I don't want to talk about it. Let's move on to the next guy who got paid here, or is getting paid.
Yeah, he's getting paid. He's now a $100 million man. Myles Garrett. He just signed. I'm trying to find the term specifically here, unless Lou, you know off the top of your head. I believe it's 5 years, $100 million
5
guaranteed.
years. No, not $100 million guaranteed. No.
$50 million.
I was going to say $100 million guaranteed is crazy, Dev. Mahomes' contract was only $63 million guaranteed. But yes, Browns get Garrett. This is their first round pick that they've signed to an extension or after their rookie deal since 2010. So all first-round picks have left the Browns except for Myles Garrett. in.
That's
Yes,
incredible
it is crazy. He's the first one to sign back with Cleveland since 2010. But yep, 5 years, $125 million. A lot of money they just gave Garrett here. A whole lot of money. I just think Cleveland can't get out of their own way here. Garrett obviously has some, on-field, off-field issues. You're not going to say you're going to run into a Vontaze Burfict situation here with Garrett, but I don't think it would escalate to that. But I can see Garrett being suspended a couple, 2 games in the near future. Then after that, it becomes 4, and then after that, it could become 8. Just not, something that I wouldn't want to worry about if I was a coach or GM on my team, having to worry about my star player getting suspended. But congratulations to Garrett on the deal. That's an amazing deal. But I don't know if it's a type of deal that's going to bring an AFC champion, an AFC North division title to the Browns here. Garrett is one hell of a football player, but I just think that these guys that they have, Odell and Garrett and Baker Mayfield, these guys are just these high ego guys. I just don't understand how the Browns keep doing it. And I don't know how Joe Thomas was the left tackle there for years, because he seemed like the best Cleveland player since Jim Brown. It was Joe Thomas. Since Jim Brown retired from the Browns, Joe Thomas has been the left tackle has been the next best big player for Cleveland here. I mean, just this Baker and Odell and Garrett, it's a lot to handle on one team, and it's going to be hard to see if they can find a coach that's going to be able to do it, because it looked like Freddie Kitchens could do it as best that he could, but we'll see what this means for the Browns going forward. But I think it was a lot of money for the Browns to commit to.
Yeah, I agree. I would not think that Myles Garrett was worth nearly this much money, in my personal opinion. I mean, especially looking at his stats last year, he had 20 solo tackles, he had 10 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. I mean, does that sound like a guy who's worth $50 million guaranteed, $100 million over the course of the contract? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be his 4th season. But like you said, I mean, the Browns are... I don't know how to describe them either, because you do have Baker, you have Odell, and now you've had Garrett for the past 3 years. I mean, you have Jarvis Landry too. You can't forget about him.
He's not as much of a hot. He's a big personality, but he's not a hothead. He's not a hothead.
No, he's not a hothead, but he's got personality too. The Browns got a lot going. I mean, they try. I mean, all those guys are very talented.
Oh, I mean, and they're think about this. I forgot to mention. I wanted to put this in. This is an organization that went out and signed Kareem Hunt after his whole thing in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So they really have no expectations on player character and things like this. And I think it's deals like this that are going to come back and bite the Browns in the ass, and why the Browns can't get out of their own way.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot about Kareem Hunt. I just feel like when I envision the Browns, I feel like it's just a bunch of Band-Aids and just try to make it work. I don't get a chemistry feel from them. I don't get a team feel. I don't get a culture feel from the Browns. Right. Personally,
because you need a coach there longer than 5 years to build the culture, and they never do.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, how many coaches have they had in the past 5 years? They definitely had 5. They might even have had 6.
Yeah.
Technically with interims. I mean, even with the Jets, I mean, you have Gase, who I can't stand, but he's building a culture around being offensive-minded. And then you have the great balance of former Browns coach Greg Williams, too, on the defensive side of the ball. I just don't get that feel from the Browns. I mean, you just pick up Odell, draft Garrett. Of course, I mean, that was a gimme at number 1 in 2017. I mean, you can agree with me here, Lou. Passing on Darnold for Baker, I mean, I did not see that coming a million miles away. I mean, it's just I don't know where the Browns are going. But it's weird, though, because the talent's there. All those guys are very talented. And remember coming into last year, everyone thought, I mean, they could contest definitely for a wild card.
Yep. But they're not leaders. They don't have a true. I don't think they have a true leader on that team. They don't have a go-to guy. You know, Eli Manning was a leader back when they won the Super Bowl. Antonio Pierce was a leader on that defense. Michael Strahan, they were leaders on that defense. I don't see anyone on the Browns emerging as this kind of leader. And if there was a leader, it'd be Joe Thomas, but obviously he's retired by now. But there's that veteran presence that you can look up to in a locker room. That's what's missing for the Browns.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, Lou. They don't have a veteran presence. They don't have a Joe Thomas in there anymore.
They have a bunch of hype men. They have hype men. And hype men are good, but they're not those exactly. They're not those leaders. They're not those top of the line kind of guys. Like Odell can hype up a locker room, sure, but it just, being down. You saw the antics when you're down 3 scores and stuff like that. That's not a leader. Like you can't do things like that. So the Browns need that, and that's why they need to go. Who's their head coach? Who they hire? Who they hire? Because whoever this head coach is needs to find a leader.
Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, whoever that guy is needs to figure out how to coach these guys and have these players become leaders and so on and so forth. Because that's the one thing I see in Joe Judge with the Giants big time is that he can make boys to men.
Yeah, well, he comes from the Belichick tree.
Well,
gotta trust everything.
We'll see. There are some Belichick tree failures, so.
Yeah. Not Eric Mangini though. I'm on that train. He was a success. I'm serious.
All right, we're not here to talk about Mangini.
I'm serious.
But there was the final deal. I don't understand how the Chiefs still have money to be throwing around. But nose tackle Chris Jones gets a 5-year, $85 million extension to his deal. 4 years. What did I say, 5?
4 years.
4, yes. 4 years, $85 million. $60 million of that guaranteed, which is crazy. So they have $103 million between him and Mahomes guaranteed. Absurd. Absolutely absurd.
Yeah, that's a crazy number. I mean, I guess when you win the Super Bowl, you have all this money coming in. I can't wait for the Jets to be like that and spend money.
Crazy.
But you know what I mean? It is crazy, especially with all this uncertainty with the cap. I mean, teams are spending money. Obviously, Mahomes with the biggest deal in the history of sports. With everything going on in uncertainty, you have the biggest deal in sports in the history of sports getting thrown around. Then with the same team. Then with Chris Jones, just like you said, $85 million with $60 million guaranteed. The Henry deal, and obviously the Myles Garrett deal. Where does this leave players like Jamal Adams? If I was Jamal Adams, now I'm starting to get upset. Now I'm calling the Jets and saying, if you really want me, where the hell's my contract extension? Even a few weeks ago when the whole thing, when he was tweeting and whatever, it was kind of like, all right, dude, come on, no one's really doing anything. But right now, teams are being active before camp. What's the excuse? And the Jets have plenty of cap. So from a Jets standpoint, I don't know. But going back to Chris Jones, very well deserved. Of course,
he's a beast.
He is a beast. He's a beast on that defensive line. And the Chiefs are doing what they have to do, keeping their homegrown guys, keeping their anchors on both sides of the ball. I love this deal for the Chiefs.
I mean, I just think that the Chiefs are going to run. They're going to run out of money here. This is it. You're putting your savings on Mahomes and Jones to be your offense and defense. Could it come back to hurt them? Absolutely, but we'll see how it works out. They just won the Super Bowl, so they're on cloud 9 right now. But soon they might be pulled back down to reality here, and you can't give out $103 million guaranteed because it leaves you very stingy on the books, especially when the salary cap could be decreasing in the next couple years with fans not being able to attend games and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, age is definitely not a factor. I mean,
No, not age. Age is not a
locking in
factor.
guys
No.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you're locking in guys that are there for the majority of their careers in their prime. I mean, if you're going to lock up guys, make it worthwhile. Get the most out of them and see how many Super Bowls and championships you can win.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
all right, we're going to move on to our final. Yeah. Well, last but not least, this will be a pretty big topic, but a week from tonight, Lou, what are you doing a week from tonight?
I haven't got my work schedule yet, but even if I am working, I will be watching Garrett Cole taking on Max Scherzer in a place that's to be determined, apparently.
Yes, sir. A week from tonight, we got baseball. More importantly, we got Yankee baseball a week from tonight. Everybody else is going to open up the next
Except
day.
Dodgers and
Who cares?
Giants, maybe, are the first game.
Oh, they open up
no. The
Saturday?
same day as the Yankees. 7 and 10.
Oh, yes, there's 2 games.
7 and 10.
Yep,
7 and 10.
You're right. Yep. But we got a doubleheader on Thursday night. I'm pumped, but I mean, before we get into that, we'll talk about that Yankees-Nationals matchup. And apparently, again, talk about major disorganization a week before the damn game is supposed to take place. Apparently, the Nationals might not even be allowed to play in D.C. due to some laws in D.C., supposedly. So they might play at a minor league affiliate in Fredericksburg, Virginia, or they might have to play down at their spring training complex down in West Palm. So, yeah, I don't know when that's going to get figured out. I don't know how that's not figured out yet. I mean, these teams need places to stay. They need to figure out accommodations, how to get there, how to bring. I mean, personally, for me, I mean, I kind of understand the logistics of what needs to go in. I mean, you need to bring bat boys and bat girls and all types of personnel and equipment. I mean, it just sounds like a huge mess a week before first pitch. I have no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah, they need to figure it out. They need to figure it out fast because you've done the best thing you could in putting Yankees Nats as the first game of the year, Cole versus Scherzer, and now you can't mess this up. But my hunch is I'm on the over 80% that they're going to play this game next Thursday night. They'll definitely find a way to do it. I honestly think it's going to be in DC. I mean, we've seen how people have been begging for sports to come back and just get some aspects of life just back to normal. And even, the president wants sports back. He's been saying that for a while now, how he wants sports to come back. So, and it's in his home, it's in DC. I mean, it's in his hometown there, I guess you can say. But I think the Washington Nationals, and they'll find a way to play this game at, their home stadium there in DC and, raise whatever banners they had planned to raise for the World Series and so on and so forth. But I think the MLB will get this game played.
Yeah, I think the game will be played. I think it'll end up being in DC too. Who am I kidding? I mean, they'll figure something out. But I mean,
it's just like drama. Like, why are we getting into drama here? Like the drama part of it. That's what I don't like about this.
Exactly, and why now too is the biggest question, at least for me. But another thing I wanted to say is, even if they can't play in DC, I understand it's a Nationals home game, but why are they going to bust their ass and make it complicated just to make it a Nationals home game? Just play the game in Yankee Stadium.
No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Why? Home field doesn't mean anything.
I mean, there's home field. In baseball, it's different. In baseball, it's different. Because if it was football, football wouldn't matter. Every field's 100 yards. In baseball, you got different kind of parks. You can hit a lazy fly ball to right field, and it leaves Yankee Stadium, where in Washington, that ball is caught. And if that's the reason the Yankees win the game, and if it would have not been at the final, if they win on a walk-off home run in the ninth, and that ball wouldn't have been out in D.C., it would have been caught, there's a whole lot there. If you play at if you play at maybe the Phillies stadium or another major league stadium around there, I don't think you would do it. But then, what are you going to do? Put the Yankees in the visiting clubhouse and the Nationals come into the home clubhouse, which has basically been just Yankees people only? You can't do it.
I think I don't see the issue. I mean, both teams are playing on the same field.
Same
anyway.
with the locker room thing
same
there,
dimensions,
Dev.
The same
yeah,
thing.
The fairness of play. I'm not going to argue about the fairness of play. The fairness of play is definitely, no team's going to have a quote unquote advantage here, but the Yankees to be in there. Yankees are not going to just go into the visiting locker room and let the Nationals come into their locker room and be there during this COVID stuff. So would you just have them play in the visitors' locker room as the home team?
It doesn't have to be that technical because it doesn't.
That's
really
the thing,
matter.
though. You want to take that little bit of an advantage you can out of waking up, being able to drive to the ballpark, things like that. That needs to be taken out. There's no way that this game is going to be played at Yankee Stadium. There's no way.
But these are unforeseen circumstances too. They got to.
Of course, and that's why they'll play at Don Bosco's field before they do Yankee Stadium.
But Lou, okay, fine. But if they're trying to play this game, if they can't play it in D.C., they're trying to play the game in Fredericksburg, Virginia, or West Palm. Fredericksburg, Virginia, there's nothing there. The Nats are going to have to bring all their stuff. The Yankees are going to have to bring all their stuff.
Well, the Yankees are bringing all their stuff anyway. That's the thing. You want to keep the Yankees from not being able to feel like they're... You're not going to put the game at Yankee Stadium and feel that they're on the home. Because the Nationals are the ones that are in the rough situation, not the Yankees.
But at least the Yanks have an operating visiting team clubhouse. You go to another clubhouse that's not being used in Fredericksburg, Virginia, where they're not playing minor league baseball. There's nothing in that clubhouse right now. Who knows if it's been disinfected, all that type of stuff. At least in New York, in the Bronx, you have an operating stadium that's ready for baseball.
This isn't a Yankee problem. This is the Nationals' problem. What are you going to do? You're just going to not play. You have the home games. What are you going to do for other home games? They need to figure it out so they can play in D.C. They can't just think that this is an alternate option where they're just going to play in Virginia for a game or two and then head back to D.C. They need to figure this out, and they need to figure it out fast.
Yeah, they got to have something. I'm surprised they don't have anything yet. I think I'm with you. I think the game's going to be played in D.C. But even if they flip-flop the series, I'm trying to go through the schedule.
Well, that's the thing that they can do. They can flip-flop the series. If they play 3? I think they only play 3 against the Nats, and they're all in Nationals Park. I'm pretty sure.
Nope, they don't have a home series against the Nats.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why they play. Yes, so that's what I said. They've said 3 at DC, and they have none against. Right. So they can't really. You can't flip-flop that. There's no option, no way to do that.
Right. Wow.
But yeah, Nationals need to figure out what other teams can their laws not regulate them from having a game. They need to figure this out, and they need to figure it out fast. Is Texas going to
be like that?
No, Texas is filled with a bunch of people that don't care, so they might have fans at their games.
California?
Cali is doing a huge reversal here, but they're Cali would worry me. LA would worry me. San Diego, San Francisco, but
a lot of teams.
I know they need to figure it out. Because their AAA stadiums aren't going to be any better in Arizona. Arizona's is bad too, but Arizona once is like Texas, where they just don't really care or pay attention to what's going on. So, yeah, I'd be worried about Cali. Yeah. You're right. I definitely would be worried about Cali, but these teams need to figure it out because we need baseball. Enough is enough now.
Lou, even when the season's going to get started, I would put money on this. This is going to be a disaster.
I hope not.
I hope not too, but between people testing positive and everything with the test and who has to quarantine and where can you play, all of a sudden you can't play Like in the
Yeah,
middle
it
of
would
the
be a
season,
mess.
say
It would be a
mid-August.
mess if
It's
if states start closing down their stadiums and not allowing baseball to happen. Yeah, that'd be a mess.
Yeah, it's. I don't know what I definitely foresee that happening. It's a very, very real possibility, and the way the MLB's been going, they're
What can go wrong will go wrong.
terrible. Yeah, and what can go wrong will go wrong. You're 100% right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh boy, but
yeah, and then
I mean,
they're
listen,
pumping crowd noise into the stadiums for the games, so
Yes.
there's not going to be totally silent. They'll be using the MLB The Show pump-in sound, kind of strikeout reactions and home run reactions and things like that. So the first inning home run is going to sound the same as the ninth inning, probably.
Yeah, that's okay.
Down 12 or up 12.
That's all right.
Same thing.
It's all going to be monotone cheers. Oh my God! Yeah, no, that was a pretty cool tidbit. And I don't know if you saw this too, Lou. This is I've seen a few other teams offering this, but I specifically went on the Mets website to look this up. But you can send a picture of yourself, and they can put you in a seat
Yes.
for I believe it's the entire season.
Could be. I know the A's were doing that as well.
Yeah, the A's were doing it too, but it's cool. You know, I mean, it's the Mets. They're charging $86, I guess, in honor of the last time they won the World Series about 100 years ago in '86. But I think that's kind of neat, and all the proceeds go to like the Mets Foundation or whatever. I love it.
Yeah, it's not a bad
it.
idea, but I think that the bigger thing, and I think this is the difference between the Mets and Yankees thinking. Hal Steinbrenner's like, I want to put 20 to 30% of fans in here. That's where the Yankees stand on that.
Yeah, the Yanks would never, ever in a million years fly for gimmicky stuff like that.
They might. I don't think they would. They wouldn't.
I don't know. I mean, they just started doing promotions. I remember back in the day, they used to never hand out promotions for Red Sox or Mets series. Every Red Sox series, there would never be a promotion for that for whatever reason. Now they start doing it, like little stuff like that. You know, the Yanks keep it as professional as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that ties in, but I don't know. I wish they would do stuff like that.
Yeah, I do it.
You know,
I do a promotion for DJ
would do it in a heartbeat.
LeMahieu coming back this week.
Yeah, of course. Heck yeah, of
Be
course.
excited
We got
about
that
that.
too. Yep. Yeah, he might join the team tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow for the inner squad, and then get some live
Yep.
at bats in these next 3 scrimmage games coming up, and hopefully be ready by Thursday.
He'll be ready. He's a machine.
He is a
I'm not worried
machine.
about him. He's not from this planet.
And is it a
Absolutely
coincidence? DJ gets COVID, and then there's a vaccine underway going. You know, did he
Nope.
do it? He might have done it. Who knows?
He definitely did. He's batting 1,000 in every facet of life. Oh my God! But I mean, that's gonna do it for this week's episode. Next week, we'll see if we're gonna come back before or after opening night.
Yes,
Opening
to be
day,
determined.
whatever you want to call it.
We might
To be
do it
determined,
that
but-
night. We might right after the game. Maybe we might
Yeah.
record
Yeah, I'm
as long
for
as
it.
I'm
That's
not
fine.
working.
Yeah. Pray to God you're not.
Yeah.
I would hate for you to miss out on that. But that's it. Lou, thank you again. As always, guys, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.